Welcome back, everybody. Time in the WHIP studios is 11:15. The Flyers are red hot as they're trying to get in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Right now, they have a 2-point lead on the Red Wings for that final spot in the NHL playoffs. And now joining us from NBC Sports is the very talented Pierre McGuire. Pierre, it's Zach and Mike here in Philly. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you on this fine day?
I'm doing fantastic, Zach. Really nice to visit with you and Mike.
Well, it's great to have you back on the Philly airwaves, and I actually saw a tweet right before we came on the air today, and 4 years ago today, you were in the middle of a Tony Granato and Peter Laviolette fight with mayhem going on the ice between Pittsburgh and the Flyers as you were in between the benches. What do you remember from that incident?
You're dating me now. I thought it was probably longer than 4 years. But anyways, I remember when Peter slammed the stick across the glass, and the blade of the stick still was wet, and the water went by and touched me in the cheek, and the stick just missed my face, and then I saw it careen into the bench. And I don't know if it touched Tony Granato or not, but Granato and Laviolette, believe it or not, are very good friends still to this day, and were before that incident. But it eventually got to Biles, and I remember that part of it, but I remember what led to that, obviously, was Joe Vitale hitting Danny Briere and Peter getting really upset about it, which I thought it was actually a clean hit, but I think what he was trying to do is get his team's attention. But the stick was a pretty dangerous prop, if you want to know the truth.
Well, one of my favorite lines, and it was something that I'm paraphrasing here, was when Doc said, "Pierre, we appreciate your insight, but we have to cut your mic because of the choice words."
Yeah, no, it's not always sanitary down there, that's for sure, Zach. I've been in the middle of a few of those, Peter DeBoer and John Tortorella in New York, and it was pretty nasty. In fact, one of those guys, I won't tell you which one, said to me about 4 or 5 days later, "Thanks for the way you covered that, but I don't even remember what I was saying." And then when I informed him what he was saying, he was horrified. He's like, "Wow, did any of that get on air?" I'm like, "No, it did not."
So let's move to this current Flyers group. I think everyone believes they're a year ahead of them what most fans expected before the year. You know, they have a good foundation, and Hextall and Hackstall and Ghost Despair and also Giroux have been playing at their best right now. Just what do you like about this Flyers group right now, and what are some things you think they need to clean up?
Well, I love the way they play. I love the energy of their team. I love the passion level. It starts with Claude, obviously, as a leader. And then it flows through the patience, and I think the skill level of Wayne Simmons and the hard-edge play of Braden Shen has really become a different player since his brother Luke got traded away. Obviously, he's having a career year, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. But I love the way that line plays. I love the way Dave Hackstall's created roles for players. Michael Raffles had a tremendous year. Sean Couturier has really done a good job in special teams type situations, winning 2 faceoffs the other night in that really tough, hard-edge game down in Philadelphia that I was doing with Eddie Olchuk and Kenny Albert against Washington. That was a tremendous job by Sean Couturier. But I think the biggest thing there is the fan base is engaged. You could feel the energy at ice level. It's the first time I felt that in Philadelphia in a very long time, and it's really exciting because I got to tell you, Zach and Mike, going forward, this team is chock full of A-level prospects. They have so many guys coming down the track. It's scary.
We're talking to NBC Sports Network analyst Pierre McGuire, and a team that's already ready to compete is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Once Evgeny Malkin went down about 3 weeks ago, many people in the hockey community were worried that they may be on the outside looking in. Since his departure, the team is 9-1. They're 10-1 in their last 11, including the game he got injured with. They're now second place in the Metropolitan Division. How much credit should Mike Sullivan and company get for this resurgence in Pittsburgh?
Oh, Mike's done a great job, along with Rick Tocchet, a former Philadelphia Flyer great. And I think I can't say enough about Jacques Martin, what he's done to stabilize their defense. But Mike Sullivan's turned that team loose. And one of the things he's done is he's played to their organizational strengths. They have a very quick team. And you see it with young players like Tommy Kunako. You see it with a young player like Brian Rust. You see it with the acquisition of Carl Hagelin. You see it with the acquisition of Phil Kessel. You see how much Crosby thrived in that up-tempo attack. But I think the coaching staff merits a lot of the credit there. Mike Sullivan's come in from Wilkes-Barre and done a great job with that group. They're going to be a tough out. They're going to be a tough out because they're deep in goal. They're very, very mobile and very good on defense, and it's led by Christopher Letang, who's having a Norris Trophy kind of a year. And Crosby's back to being what Crosby has been for a good portion of his career, which is a really dangerous player to play against.
And you mentioned that Pittsburgh, that they are deep in net and they've had to ride Fleury a bit. They obviously have a pretty good young backup there. But here in Philly, Michael Neuwirth, he got hurt also a few weeks ago. So the Flyers have had to ride Steve Mason just a bit. Of the remaining 6 games, it's just 3 back-to-backs. How many of those games do you expect Mason to start in?
Well, until they solidify something, he probably is going to get a fair number of them. Obviously, Philadelphia's in a pretty good position playing Ottawa tomorrow. Ottawa's coming off 2 hard-fought wins, one in Winnipeg, one in Minnesota. A lot of time zone travel, 3 games, 4 nights. Don't know how that's going to play out for them. But I'd like to think that Philadelphia is going to really go after them early on tomorrow. I also have to think at some point, once they do clinch, that they're going to have to put Anthony Stolarz in goals just to give Steve a break. But again, this thing in Philadelphia has been handled so well by Ronnie Hextall, by his management team, and by Dave Haxtell, and a really good staff. You look at the development of their defensemen. You guys were asking about Gostisbehere before. Gord Murphy deserves a ton of credit there. He's done a really good job making those guys better on the back end. Joey Mullen's done an excellent job with their forwards, along with Ian LaPerriere. So they've got everything covered off, and obviously Dave's got real good command on the bench. So I look at it, and I'm not really good at throwing out bouquets, but I got to throw a bunch of bouquets out to Ronnie Hextall and to Dave Haxtall and the entire management team there. They've done a great job.
And Hextall has really just been a new voice in this organization, and he thinks a different way. And a lot of people were happy when they hired Hextall, but it was an interesting hire. Going back to that hiring, what do you think you saw in Coach Hextall to bring him in here?
You know what? There are a lot of Dave Haxtalls in college hockey. They're just crying out for an opportunity. University of Massachusetts just hired one out of St. Lawrence University the other day, Greg Carville, who is a tremendous player at St. Lawrence. I helped scout and recruit him, and I coached him. And then when I was coaching in Pittsburgh, I was part of the management team that drafted him. He's a tremendous young coach. I look at Norm Bazin at University of Massachusetts at Lowell. He's a fantastic coach. I look at Nate Lehman. I can go around the NCAA. There are a lot of really, really good coaches that are very similar to Dave Haxtall. But one of the things that Dave had at North Dakota, consistency. The message was firm and fair. The development of the players was outstanding. You look at all the first-round picks that he had, whether it be a Zach Parise, whether it be a Jonathan Taves, guys that have really, TJ Oshie, guys that have really thrived in the NHL. But to me, the biggest thing was the success. 11 years at North Dakota, 7 Frozen Fours. That's high-end success. So that's what I think more than anything else Ronnie saw. And obviously Ronnie had some inside information because his son played for Dave Haxtall in North Dakota, so I knew exactly what the coach was all about.
You know, the one strong voice in the Flyers organization for all these years, and the important voice has been Mr. Snyder. Unfortunately, he hasn't been around the club this much because he's had some bad health. And Sam Carchidi had an article about this the other day, how the Flyers are really trying to win it for Mr. Snyder. Just what does he mean to the organization and the current players and Mr. Snyder?
He means a lot. He's the owner. I mean, he's kept that thing viable for a very long period of time. He's one of the more powerful men in the history of the National Hockey League. If you look at the top 50 power brokers in the league, I guarantee you Mr. Snyder's in the top 20 over the course of the history of the National Hockey League, and we're almost at 100 years. He's done a great job building the brand that is the Philadelphia Flyers. He's a larger-than-life person. I wish him nothing but the best and hope, obviously things materialize in a more of a positive way with the bad health that he's had. I know that the team went to visit with him at his home in Malibu when they were out there on their West Coast trip, and I think he really appreciated that visit. And I think the players know he's one of the better owners in the league. I mean, he's a tremendous owner. Those players get treated unbelievably well, and he's a big reason why.
We're less than 2 weeks away from playoff hockey, and one of the new things that will come in playoff hockey is cameras along the blue line to make sure that guys stay on side, and it can be challenged in a coach's challenge. Just what do you think about this implementation, and do you like it?
Yeah, I think we always want to get things right. Just to take it one step further, Mike, there's going to be cameras in the goalposts and under the crossbars as well. I don't know how much publicity that's gotten, but I was talking to the people at the Hockey Operations Department 2 days ago, and that's something to look for as well. So they want to get goals right. They want to get offside right. They want to get a lot of things right. And I think cameras can only enhance that.
And as you know, playoff hockey is the most wonderful time of the year other than Christmas. But of the 8 matchups that would happen today if the playoffs ended today, and I know there's still a lot more to be sorted out, but if the playoffs started today, any matchups glaring at you that you're just seeing and saying, wow, that is a must-watch?
I think any matchup that involves Los Angeles is a must-watch. I think any matchup that involves St. Louis is a must-watch. Because of the way the crowd has reacted to the Philadelphia Flyers, if you ever had a first-round matchup of Philadelphia and Washington, that would be a must-watch. The rest of them, you can't really. I'd love to speculate, but you just don't know because it's just so fluid at this time. But the teams I did a Los Angeles-Anaheim game earlier this year in Anaheim on a Sunday night, and it was the game of the year. But the amount of hitting, the skill level, and the pace was off the charts. I had not seen an NHL game like that in a regular season in a very, very long time. So, there are a lot of good teams. But I would say of all the ones that potentially could happen just based on today, Philly-Washington would be right near the top.
Wrapping up with Pierre McGuire, who joins us from NBC Sports, WHIP Radio, back in Philadelphia. Duncan Keith has a hearing today for that hit on Coyle. You know he has a history going back to a few years ago with Jeff Carter. What do you anticipate the league to do with Duncan Keith?
I think he misses the rest of the regular season, so that's 5 games that he'd be out. I don't think Chicago has an issue with that. They want Dunk to rest anyways. They probably were going to rest him. That being said, what he did was wrong. He knows it was wrong. I would be surprised if he missed the playoff series. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed 1 playoff game, but I don't think it would be more than that. I'm still not sure he will miss a playoff game, so I think he'll probably miss the 5 regular season games, and maybe, this is a stretch, maybe 1 playoff game.
Now, before we let you run, you take a look at the Kings. You mentioned them, but also the Panthers right now with what Yager's doing has just been so fun to watch at his age. The Rangers may have one last run in them. I know they didn't win last night. And the Capitals, who knows if this is going to be their year, especially the way they've been playing in the regular season, which has been the best team in the league. Who are those teams that you look at that you think are really just poised to make that deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Washington's one of them. I think Washington's got a chance to do some really good things. Los Angeles, I think, has a chance. They've really got a solid roster. And then you look at Anaheim. The depth that Anaheim has, we're just down the middle with Ryan Getzlaf, Ryan Kessler, and then Ricard Raquel is phenomenal. They have the best checking line in the National Hockey League with Jakob Silfverberg, Ryan Kessler, and Andrew Cogliano. They have as mobile a defense as there is in the league. They're 2 goalies deep. Anaheim's really lethal. I would say this. If I were the Washington Capitals right now, and I'm bullish on them, I think they're a good team. The one team I wouldn't want to play in the first round is Philadelphia. I really wouldn't. I was there the other night, and I don't think the Flyers are afraid of them, and that's not good because Philadelphia is a team that's got a lot of emotion going right now, and that fan base is energized. They really are.
Yeah, I was sitting in that building the other night, and I just thought to myself, this has the makings of a 7-game series if we see it. But Pierre McGuire, you're the best. We appreciate the time as always.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Very nice visiting with you people. Have a great weekend, everybody, and good luck to the Flyers.
You too. There is Pierre McGuire from NBC Sports joining us on the hotline, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn here with you, taking up until noon Eastern time. Chuck Everson will join us at 11:40 to talk a little Villanova. But how about that with Pierre McGuire to get his take on this time of the year with the NHL playoffs vastly approaching?
Yeah, it's very exciting, and especially I was surprised to see, because it's one thing when people in this city say, hey, the Flyers stand a chance maybe if they face the Capitals, but when you hear
Pierre, it the other day.
when you hear Pierre McGuire of NBC Sports Network, he's been around the league for so long. He knows what he's talking about. So he says the Flyers aren't scared of the Capitals. You know what that means? The Flyers aren't scared of the Capitals.
Oh, no, he's exactly right. And you take a look at the Flyers and the Capitals, and I was in the building the other night. The Flyers, they were down by a goal in that game. They were, having a lot of shot attempts, but nothing was getting by Holtby. And then Giroux just had a big blast, and it got deflected by Shen. It goes into overtime. They kill off that power play, and the Capitals hit a post. You didn't think the Flyers were going to get out of that overtime. And then you go into a shootout, and the building that was energetic all night gets really quiet because everyone knows the Flyers' history in the shootout. And then what do you know? The Flyers win the shootout. And this has been the Flyers team this year. They just find a way, especially in this later part of the season, and they're playing their best hockey right now. Gostisbehere has been unbelievable. Giroux has taken his game to another level. Shen has been able to put in, I think it's 25 goals on the year. Wayne Simmons has, I've always been a big Wayne Simmons fan. He's taken his game to that next level, and now you have Mason, and it's going to be fun to watch to see how they handle those minutes. You play Mason until you are in the playoffs. That's my take on it, because this has been a team that's a year in front of what people expected. So give the fans what they want, get them into the playoffs, and as you know, anything could happen in Lord's Stanley Cup playoff. We've seen it before with the Flyers. Last time they were in it, they lose. The Rangers go on to the Cup. Or the last time the Flyers got to the Cup, it was a 7-8 matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals. So this is a Flyers team that I think they're poised, if they continue to play this way, to give the Capitals a run for their money. And wouldn't it just be so fitting to see those Washington Capitals, after having the year that they've had and how they dominated? They get Oshie in there. Ovechkin has 44 goals on the season, and Holtby is closing in on records, trying to take down Brodeux's record. Wouldn't it be something if they lose in the first round? It's so Washington, and I could see it happen.
I agree with just about everything you said, except one thing. You said the Flyers are about 1 year ahead, and I keep telling you.
You think it's 2?
I think they're 2 years ahead of schedule. I really do think that this is a team.
And you're the hockey mind on this show.
And not meaning that I'm always right. That's very clear. But the Flyers were a team that the intention was to just keep that core intact, get the young guys coming through the system. Really, Gostisbehere is the only guy who's come through the system outside of maybe Lawton, who was younger and was expected to make an impact this year. No one really thought Gostisbehere would make this kind of an impact, but they still have a lot more pieces to deal with. And I think this is a Philadelphia team that 5 years down the road will be very scary.
What we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back. Chuck Everson will join us in 7 minutes to talk a little Villanova. And when we get back, we have to give you our predictions on this Final Four. He's Mike Zahn. I'm Zach Gelb. We're here with you. We're rolling along until noon Eastern time, where the Temple Sports Hour comes your way, and we'll be back in 60 seconds.